In today's video, we're going to go over the 3 ways that you can stick with healing foods while you're traveling. We're going to get to that in just a second. My name is Dr. James Null. I am a chiropractor. I have a ton of training in functional medicine. I ditched that years ago because I realized it was nothing more than an expensive way to feel like you were doing something useful for your health, but it does no real true healing at the end of the day. So I've been doing medical medium protocols since 2016. I've been able to work with clients all over the world to help them fast track their healing results. But I understand that not everyone's going to be willing or able to do coaching with me. So I do want to provide some free value, or maybe you're just checking me out to get a little better idea of my approach. So here we go. We're going to dive into this topic, which is a common one because just about all of us, we have work obligations, or we have a social life, or we just like to take a vacation every now and then. And what does this look like when you are trying to live in both worlds? You're trying to still have that normalcy of the social life or the work life, along with these new foods that can restore your health and reverse disease. It can be a trying time for many people when they're starting out. And look, if we all lived in a vacuum, this would all be pretty simple. If it was just about eating certain foods and not eating other foods, I'm sure most of us could do that at the end of the day. But when we have to take this to the real world, that's where people get tripped up big time. And I'm telling you, if you're not prepared for travel, man, it's easy to just say, oh, I'll figure it out next time, but I'm just going to go with this today. And that's a surefire way to put yourself in a situation where even though you're doing lots of good things with food most of the time, and even though you might not necessarily feel bad after you have some troublemaker foods out, it can throw symptoms at you down the road, and that can lead to a whole lot of confusion. So I'm telling you right now, this can be done. You can stick to healing foods, or at the very least, avoid the bad foods while you're traveling and not shoot yourself in the foot, because I've seen so many people do that. When I started this, I used to just tell my chiropractic patients who had chronic health conditions that weren't really a chiropractic thing, I'd be like, oh my God, you got to do medical medium. And I would assume that they would just go crazy tearing into the information like I did, consume as much as possible, as quickly as possible, be able to integrate that and make it fit for their lives. But what I quickly realized was that people did not do it right because there's so much information to sift through. It can be confusing. It can be overwhelming. So that's why I do the coaching now. And it is possible to figure this stuff out on your own. If you have the time, the energy, the brain power, it can be done. But if you want to just fast forward your results and make sure you're not making any obvious mistakes, that's what I provide with my coaching service. So that being said, let's dive into the 3 ways that you can continue your healing journey while you're traveling. So, and these are in order from best to worst, best to least good, we'll say. And you'll have to figure out where you fall in this category. Any of them are, hey, there's no laws here. You can do whatever you want. This is just my experience. So, number 1 is, do you bring your own food and equipment? Now, obviously, this is probably only going to be feasible if you're driving somewhere and you're taking a car, and you could pack your juicer. You can pack your blender. You can bring that stuff with you to wherever you're going. You can go do your produce shopping at home on your home turf and just bring a big cooler and travel with all that stuff with you. And then you just get set up at your destination, and voila, it's like you have your home kitchen on an away field. That's going to be pretty simplistic. That's going to be pretty easy. Not much is going to change for you there, and you can stick to your healing protocols that you're doing fairly easily there. Now, that's just one situation. Of course, there's going to be times where people are flying and they just can't take, they can't take they're not going to travel with their juicer. They're not going to travel with their blender. They're not going to take days worth of produce with them on the airplane, right? So if that's the situation, a great thing to do is to hop online, however you like to search things out, and just start to research what grocery stores are near the place that I'm going to be staying at. Are there juice bars? Are there organic grocery stores? Are there health food stores? What restaurants are around me there? And get a lay of the land. And so that you know, once you arrive at your destination, like, okay, hey, first things first, I'm going out and I'm scooping up the foods that I want. I'm getting my bananas, getting my leafy greens, whatever you want. And I'm just going to have that at the home base. So I know for at least part of my travels, I'm going to have incredibly healing meals. And I'm still going to be doing cleansing. That's amazing. That's a reasonable expectation that you can do that just about anywhere. Now, if you're like, hey, well, when I travel, I dine out 3 times a day at restaurants, you might want to cut that back. Because, I mean, dining out at any restaurant, there's always some amount of risk there. Even ones that, they might be vegan, plant-based, whatever. There's always, you never really know what's getting into your food. So you might want to just consider dialing back the restaurants while you're traveling and try to have more meals that you're in full control of, and they're just healing foods. Some people take this to a whole new level, and they use the fact that they're traveling out and about, they use that as a reason to only do healing foods. And they might say, I'm only going to eat fruits and vegetables. It's going to be simple. I don't have to think about where I'm going to eat. I can fill up easily. And I want to use this opportunity to, while I'm traveling for work or pleasure, I want to restore and nourish my body. By all means, that's fantastic. Go for it. Now, that's not going to be all of us. And a lot of people, when we're traveling, you might have to go out to work dinners, or you might have to go out to family, friend, whatever dinners. Okay, that's fine. We can live with that. Now, a couple options in that situation are to kind of stick with cuisines that lend themselves to not having those real bad troublemaker foods like eggs, dairy, and gluten. So, that could be things like Asian restaurants. Some Asian cuisines lend themselves to not having those foods. And you can kind of look at menus ahead of time and get a lay of the land and see what might be viable for you to have that isn't really going to be a major setback. The other thing that I would recommend is either while you're at the restaurant or ahead of time, just let them know in a very respectful, friendly manner, like, hey, I can't wait. Your food looks amazing. Like, I'm super pumped to eat here. However, I can't have eggs, dairy, or gluten. So is there anything, chef, that could prepare for me that could accommodate that? And look, it's a different ballgame now than it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Pretty much every restaurant, that you're not going to be the first person to let them know that you'd like to avoid certain foods. And as long as you're cool about it, they're almost always going to be cool as well. So you have to just, let them know, because I can promise you there are going to be dishes that you would not expect would have used butter or milk or gluten or eggs, and they would. For example, there's a very common practice, I think it's in Asian cuisine, where they do an egg wash over meat before they cook the meat. I would not know that. And if you look at the recipe or the menu item, you'd be like, oh, there's no eggs in this. This is totally cool. There's no gluten. There's no dairy. That's great. And you could just be like, well, you could, if you just like, hey, can I make sure there's no dairy or gluten in here? They'll be like, yeah, absolutely. There's no dairy or gluten, but there's egg in there, and you would never know that. So it's a good practice just to figure out how you want to reach out. You could email them ahead of time. You could have one of your friends or family members who's more outgoing than you are. You could have them bring it up for you, whatever. It is important to avoid those, especially when you're starting out. But look, at the end of the day, mistakes are going to happen. It's all learning experiences. You just have to figure out what this is going to look like for you. It's not going to be the end of the world. You can control what you can control. Do the best that you can, and don't beat yourself up if mistakes happen. You have a setback. Okay, that's fine. I promise you, if you stick with this and you stick with your desire to heal, you'll figure out how you like to travel and what works best for you. And this absolutely can be done. These medical medium protocols absolutely do travel to just about anywhere in the world. It's all a matter of how bad do you want it? How bad do you want to heal? Obviously, you're here watching this video, so healing is somewhere towards the top of your priority list, and it can be done. You just have to have a different outlook on things. That's how you get different results in anything, right? You want better results than you've gotten. You want better results than what everyone else is doing for health. So yeah, we're playing a different game now, but it's a great game to play. You're in the right place. You're going to go far. As long as you don't give up, you'll get great results. All right, that's it for today.